The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Welcome to my show. We're here at our home studio. We're going to be doing a Skype interview with a very wonderful and lovely lady named Rebecca Kiessling. She has a story to tell us, and we'll be right back in a moment. Hello, Rebecca Kiessling. How are you? Welcome to my show.
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
It's Kiessling.
Kiessling. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, you're a very special person, and I'm glad we're chatting with you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, something happened when you were conceived. What happened to your mom at that time? Did she tell you all about what was going on later on in life? What happened to you?
I was 19 when I met her, and she told me the horrible details, how she had been abducted and brutally raped.
Oh. Did they catch the perpetrator?
No, she said she went to several police lineups and she stopped going because she wouldn't recognize his face. But she told me that they knew that this was a serial rapist.
Oh. They never caught him? No?
No.
Oh, man.
And I did the DNA testing on AncestryDNA.com like a year and a half ago. I had my results, and I know who he is, and he never spent time in jail.
Well, God knows who he is. And what changed your mom's mind about doing an abortion? Was she ever thinking of doing an abortion?
Yeah, she went to 2 illegal abortions, and I was almost aborted, and the back alley conditions and the fact that it was illegal are what caused her to back out. For the first abortionist, she was to meet someone at night by the the first one, she, this was through the rape counselor that the police had referred her to, first of all. She said there were no pregnancy resource centers back then, but if there had been, she would have gone. But nobody offered her any other help or hope. And for the first abortionist, she was to meet, she was to go to the doctor's office. He was an OBGYN, and she had to go in through the back door.
Wow.
But like many of the legal abortions today, it was filthy. And she said there was blood and dirt on the floor and on the table. And those conditions and the fact that it was illegal caused her to back out. Then it was arranged for her to go to a more expensive abortionist. This time she was to meet someone at night by the Detroit Institute of Arts, ironically next to Cézanne's Thinker statue.
Oh.
And someone would approach her, say her name, blindfold her, put her in the backseat of a car, take her somewhere to abort me, blindfold her again and drop her back off. And she was told if she was further along than thought, or if there were any complications, they would have to keep her overnight. And she was terrified, but she was prepared to go through with it. The night she was to abort me, my aunt was going to drive her. And she spoke with this abortion doctor on the phone, expressed concern for her safety. He called her stupid. And she said, well, if you're going to insult me, call me names, just forget it. And he went on to swear at her profusely, and she finally just hung up the phone. And then he called her back the next day to try to talk her into allowing him to take my life for $500. And the same conversation took place. There's actually a film that's used in feminist studies all over the United States and Canada. It's the only documentary ever done on the Back Alley Network before Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And the name of this film is Back Alley Detroit. So I could literally watch this film and see the men who were going to take my life. Like, I know the time, plate, manner, like how much money was on my head, you know, all the details of my impending death. And that was my life-changing near-death experience.
I'm glad your mother changed her mind and had
Well, I mean, she didn't. She didn't. When we met when I was 19, she
Yeah.
was pro-choice.
Oh.
And she told me that if abortion had been legal, she would have aborted me and that it should have been her right. She did not change her mind until 6 years after that. So I owe my birth to the law being there to protect me, not because my birth mother chose life for me. She chose, you know, for her own safety, but her choice was definitely abortion. I owe my birth to the law that protected me.
And the Lord was the one that protected you.
But he expects us to do something as well, to be his hands and feet, and to rescue those who are being led away to death, as we're told in Proverbs 24:11-12. You know, we have a responsibility too.
When were you adopted after you were born by a loving couple or no?
No. You know, when things were good, they were really good, but when they were bad, they were really bad. And I was adopted and raised in a secular, atheist, Jewish home,
Oh yeah.
if that makes any sense. I actually learned my pro-life values from my atheist Jewish grandmother because my grandfather had told her to abort my aunt when she was pregnant with my aunt.
Oh.
And she said, I never loved him again after that. She hated abortion. She really did. And she was devastated when my cousin aborted her first grandchild.
Oh.
And that was, you know, it was her mom whose life she spared when my grandfather was trying to get her to end her life. But my family was abusive.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my dad broke my nose when I was in high school.
I wasn't.
And my mom was bipolar, unmedicated, undiagnosed until I was about 30. But it was very chaotic. I got a good education. You know, they valued health and fitness. I got to be in sports, but the abuse was bad. And my adopted brother was in and out of jail and prison from the age of 16. He was in third grade the first time the police knocked on our door, and he was extremely abusive to me. He's like 6'6", and it was bad. He tried to rape me, and he was doing drugs from a very young age, and his friends as well. And it was,
what age did you leave your house?
I moved out when I was 18.
18.
And
Did you get help at all spiritually?
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately how I found my worth and purpose, you know, my identity. My birth mother and her husband legally adopted me about 7 or 8 years ago.
So you're on a mission right now. You're going around just in the United States or going international?
I speak internationally quite a bit. I'm going to Peru on Wednesday for 6 days, and when I get back, a few days later, I go to Malta for 10. I was in Malta last December as well. There's no legalized abortion in Malta or Peru.
Oh,
There's no rape exception in either.
The UN's trying to make certain countries do abortion, aren't they?
And I'm thrilled that it was just announced in Brazil last week. They took a vote in committee 18-1 to get rid of the rape exception. I spoke there in July of 2016 in Congress. And it was all my friends that I made who introduced this bill to get rid of the rape exception, which they've had in place since 1940.
Wow.
So, you know, thrilled that I'm involved in helping to affect change, and I change the hearts. God uses me to change the hearts of a lot of politicians, including a couple presidential candidates here, governors. It's pretty exciting that God has used me, and now we have a whole team, a whole army, community of people globally who were conceived in rape or incest, mothers who became pregnant by rape and are either raising their children or birth mothers, or they regret aborting their child after rape. And we help get their stories told and published, training for other speakers.
Yeah.
We have a couple dozen national speakers on our website for Save the One. I have a database of over 525 with rape-related stories like that. And then we have hundreds from our Carry to Birth division, where they were given a challenging prenatal diagnosis and told to abort, or their parents were told to abort them.
Rape. It's not the woman's fault, and nor the baby's fault, but they're acting, the abortionists are acting as if it is their excuse to take a life. It's more traumatic on the woman to have a rape and then abortion. It's double the whammy, so to speak. It harms the mother and, of course, kills the baby.
Yeah, it's insane to think that somehow more violence brings healing. We know that rape victims are 4 times more likely to die within the next year after the abortion. They have a higher murder rate, because it helps perpetuate abusive situations. We know that sex traffickers, child molesters, rapists love abortion, because the abortion destroys the evidence and enables them to continue perpetrating. Rape victims also have a higher rate of suicide, drug overdose, domestic violence, depression, on and on. So it's not even healing for the rape victim, but people just assume that most rape victims would want an abortion when they abort at half the rate of the average unplanned pregnancy. And they assume that she would be better off with an abortion, and that could not be further from the truth. The baby, by the way, whenever you have a young rape victim, it's always the baby who reveals the rape and who ultimately ends up protecting her. The baby is the hero in the story.
That's right.
Oftentimes girls are raped for years before they finally get pregnant, and the baby is the one who delivers them out of that terrible scenario. Sometimes own mothers are trafficking them.
Really? I like to know why is it control over the woman when a man rapes a woman, a young child, whatever? Is it like control or power? I'm trying to understand why they...
They say that rape is like a power and control issue. Depending on the type of rapist, there's like other issues that are going on. There's like all kinds of profiles done of different types of rapists, but it's a long discussion.
Who's helping you with your mission? Are you being helped?
Well, we have a board,
Yeah.
So I'm not alone in that. And, we haven't done formal fundraising. We got our 501c3. We got our license to solicit in the state of Michigan now. So we do need to start, building a database so we can actually do some fundraising. But it's amazing, honestly, how much we've already achieved with so little. There's organizations that have multi-million-dollar budgets, and they don't achieve anything. You just look in Congress, how little has gotten done in the last 4 decades. But God has blessed our ministry, and unlike some of those, compromise organizations who are willing to engage in child sacrifice by supporting legislation with rape exceptions, by supporting candidates, politicians who make exceptions. Right. It hasn't gotten them anywhere. They'll say that they're pragmatic, but the most pragmatic approach is to uphold your values, because it's the politicians who don't make exceptions are the ones who are going to end abortion.
a lot of rapes and a lot of babies who have been aborted because of that, they're not identified as to being a person. They're just something to get rid of. Am I right about that? That they don't have any rights at all, but they do. They do have rights in the womb. Do you talk about that, saying that we also have a right to live?
Well, I'm every bit as much of a person as you are.
Yes.
Just because I was conceived and raped doesn't make me any less of a person. And that's the beauty of personhood. And that's why I've been the national spokeswoman for Personhood for many years. I'm on the executive board of Personhood Alliance. Our organization, Save the One, is actually an at-large affiliate of Personhood Alliance.
Is that you? What you did you found that? Did you organize that? Who put it together?
Personhood Alliance or Save the One? I'm the founder of Save the One.
Save the One. How long has that been in existence now?
Like 5 years, I think.
Do you have a lot of people working with you?
But we were a project of Personhood for a while. I mean, I founded it first, and then we became a project of Personhood USA at the time. And then we went independent, and so we got our board together, got incorporated, got, all set up 501c3, and like I said, now, like, our license to solicit in Michigan. But Save the One, the name comes from the parable of the lost sheep, where Jesus was talking about letting the little ones come to him, and he said, "See that you do not despise any of these little ones." And I know that's kind of a strange thing to say, like, who would despise a little one? Well, my people group are called Evil Seed. Sean Hannity called us an evil seed on the radio when he was interviewing my friend Lila Rose.
Oh boy.
We're called Demon Seed. Demon Seed, that was a pastor. Bishop Paul Morton Jr. said that at a pastor's conference of a couple thousand pastors. He said we're a demon seed, not what God created.
Huh?
Wow, okay.
Oh, man.
We get called monster's child, rapist child. You never hear them say rape victim's child. I mean, that's what I am. I'm the child of a rape victim, but no, they want to call us rapist child. And which is such an insult to all the rape victim mothers who are raising their children, who love their children dearly. We get called, that we're tainting the gene pool. I mean, all kinds of horrible things. So my people group, we are despised. And then Jesus went on to say, "For I tell you, there are angels in heaven always look upon the face of my Father in heaven." And then he goes into the parable of the lost sheep, where the good shepherd leaves the 99 to save the one.
Yes.
And he finishes the parable by explaining its point. And he says, "For in the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish, and neither should we." When you make a rape exception, or when you support politicians or legislation that has rape exceptions in it, you are saying we are willing that some of these little ones should be lost. God is not. And, some people think, like I said, it's pragmatic, but I'm from Michigan. We've never had a rape exception in a single law. We have the best pro-life organization, most organized in the nation. Mm-hmm. We have more affiliates than any other state has. Most of them have fundraisers. And you cannot get their PAC endorsement, Political Action Committee endorsement, if you make a rape exception. They are considered to be the #1 most powerful single issue PAC in the state of Michigan, which says a lot. They have an incredible amount of credibility. We've passed better laws than anywhere else in the nation, and not a single rape exception. So when you hear people say, you save the 99 in exchange for the one, first of all, that's not biblical.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's all you're doing is protecting mediocre politicians, which makes it more difficult to get anything done. If you want to be pragmatic, do not support these politicians. Don't support rape exception legislation. stop the craziness. That's what they did in Georgia 15 years ago. They were the worst in the nation, worse than California and New York. And they lost half their board over this decision to stop compromising, to stop engaging in child sacrifice. And
That's what it is, child sacrifice, really.
It is. And they announced that they would no longer support rape exception candidates. They were told by the Democratic Party, Republican Party, that they were dead in that state. Dan Becker wrote a book detailing all of this that was published about 5 years ago. So 10 years after writing this book, they completely transformed their state. They had a majority in the House and the Senate, and every statewide elected official under their constitution, the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, were all 100% pro-life, no exceptions, no compromise. They make their candidates sign a affidavit, sworn under oath, vowing to make the exception, not to compromise.
So you're politically involved then. You're politically involved. You have bills passed with what you have done.
Obama passed the Rape Survivor Child Custody Act, and I was involved in crafting that for an organization I co-founded called Hope After Rape Conception. We've been getting it passed unanimously all over the country in the last 2 years. I got that law introduced in Brazil when I spoke in Congress there, in their Congress a year and a half ago. I got the law introduced in Malta after speaking there last December. It was just introduced in August to terminate the parental rights of rapists. But I've testified on pro-life, explicitly pro-life bills all over the country, with no rape exceptions. And we got personhood bills passed out of several state, committees, Senate committees, House committees. The problem is that their Office of Budget and Management in every state kept coming back saying, we can't pass a complete ban on abortion because of the Hyde Amendment, the federal Hyde Amendment that has a rape exception. And what happened is the Hyde Amendment didn't always have a rape exception. That's the ban on Medicaid funding of abortion. For 20 years, it mostly did not have a rape exception, but for the last, almost 25 years, it's had an exception in it. And it's become the standard now in Congress. They'll say, this merely incorporates terms of Hyde. Like Hyde is now the standard. Rape exceptions, that's it for them. What happened is that it originally was that state could fund in cases of rape and incest, but they didn't have to. So states like Michigan didn't. And then they ended up getting sued after Bill Clinton did a letter to HHS making it a mandate to fund in cases of rape and incest. So it was no longer an option for states, and then Planned Parenthood started suing different states and got court orders where they have to fund in those cases.
Wow.
And so it's crazy how the Hyde Amendment is now having a chilling effect on different state legislatures' willingness to pass personhood laws, protecting from conception without exception.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people have any idea of how insidious that is, how dangerous the rape exceptions in Hyde are. And again, all they're doing is protecting mediocre politicians in Congress. I mean, what has Congress done to pass a pro-life bill in the last, 4.5 decades?
Are we becoming more aware now? We're becoming more aware of what personhood is, what children are. They're alive in and out of the womb. They are individuals. They have their rights. So, I'm with Lutherans for Life. I also work with Allen County Right to Life here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're having to pass laws as well, not just Lutherans for Life, but Allen County. Kathy Hamburger, she's
a friend. She's a good woman.
Yeah, and she's really gung-ho to get these abortionists out of our state and trying to do it for the other states as well. But, you know,
It's just too bad that, you know, Indiana has rape exceptions in their laws.
yeah. Would you ever come to Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I've been to Fort Wayne quite a bit, actually.
Oh, well, this is the first time I've met you. And I'm so glad that you came on my show. What can you say to encourage the young people, especially the young woman or older woman who have been raped? How can you encourage them to say there is hope and the baby is indeed a person, individual that need rights, that have rights to live?
I mean, first of all, you have to, you know, show her some empathy for what she's been through. You know, hear her story, listen to her, and you know, show her that you care. Offer help, offer tangible help. Let her know she's not alone. I mean, again, we have this organization where we have a multitude of stories. We have over 150 blogs written on our Save the One blog of all these, you know, difficult cases, stories. So she can always read other stories or videos. We have a plethora of videos on our Facebook page. On the internet, you can find our stories. And that's always helpful because what these women say to us, and again, I have a network of over 525, is that it's really amazing to know that they're not alone.
Yes.
One woman who just had her baby 5 weeks ago, we spoke a few days ago, and she told me that throughout her pregnancy, every day, she would go to my website to read these other stories. She said sometimes twice a day because they were a source of encouragement throughout the pregnancy when so many people around her were pressuring her to abort. They thought that she was crazy. She talked about how she felt so much death after being raped and so much darkness, and that this baby was life and light and hope. And everybody else thought she was crazy. And even halfway through her pregnancy, more than halfway through it, 24 weeks, they were pressuring her to abort. And she said that being able to read these other stories was a source of encouragement. So she didn't have to feel alone. And she could realize that, you know, it's normal to love your child. You don't have to be isolated. I mean, there are some people who have expressed that they kind of were made to feel like they were a bad rape victim, you know, because they were...
As if it were their fault, you know?
Yeah. And that, you know, people questioned whether they were even raped because they were actually happy about this child. I just think, you know, a lot of people don't realize how a child really brings healing. One other woman, she said this, a very similar thing. Shauna Pruitt said that, that again, there was so much death inside and that her body that just felt really dead. She just thought that it was miraculous that somehow her body was sustaining and growing new life. And she just marveled at that wonder.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on to my show. We love you, and we hope to see you again in Fort Wayne. So I'll keep in touch and all that. So this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Thank you. Thank you for coming on to my show.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed.